Good morning, everyone. Into this space made sacred by our presence, we have come to worship. Some of us are bringing our best selves into this space, and some of us are bringing our struggling selves, including pieces we might be ashamed of. All of us are welcome here, and all of us are loved. Some of us already have open hearts, and some of us aren't quite there yet because our hearts have gotten a little beat up this week and might have forgotten how to trust and open. Your heart is welcome here, no matter how bruised. We welcome you among us. All of us are imperfect, but we're here to drop our defenses and trust that what happens in worship is powerful and life-giving. Together we affirm that this day and our being together can make each of us braver, more compassionate, and wiser than when we woke up this morning. It's good to be together again. Let us begin. The act of lighting a candle can bring a smile or tears, depending on the reason you lit it. If you wish to come to the table and light a candle for whatever personal reason you're carrying with you today, please do so while we sit quietly and listen to the prelude. Please, if you wish, stand and join me in saying our spoken affirmation. Then remain standing for our chalice lighting. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another. Our chalice lighting words come from Katie Gilfriend. We light our chalice as a symbol of gratitude as we celebrate the abundance of our lives together. In this sanctuary, we harvest bushels of strength for one another and offer our crop with the hands of compassion and generosity. In the authentic and gentle manner of our connections, we cultivate a simple sweetness to brighten our spirits. May we be grateful for the ways we nourish and uplift each other, for it is the sharing of this hallowed time together that sustains us. You may be seated. The Reverend Richard Gilbert authorized these words we offer for our opening thought this morning. We inhale and exhale in regular rhythm, an act so common it never occurs to us to pay attention. And when we do, we're overwhelmed with the wonder of it all. We eat our food as we've done for 1,000 days, a practice so frequent we hardly notice the miraculous million events that happen in our bodies. And when we do, we're taken with their singular beauty. We greet our loved ones as we've greeted them for years, a habit that we pass off casually, until we realize the deep poignancy of greetings and farewells, how precious they are, how they touch deeper feeling chords each time. Pardon me. Perhaps this knowing comes in the middle age or old age, or perhaps sentiments grows in us, or perhaps we are awakening to life in ways transcending our usual semi-awake states of being. The poignancy of living in these days fills us, burrows deep into the psyche, or soul, or spirit. We know not what. We only know that feeling when the common things of life become uncommon, when the ordinary becomes extraordinary, when the habitual becomes sacred. Bittersweet is the poignancy of living in these days. We awaken, we listen, and we bow down in deep gratitude. Alex Jensen is a newly ordained minister, began his first pastorate last month in Grand Traverse, Michigan. He calls this piece, "Don't Argue with Salvation." And I love this piece. So, don't argue with salvation when it arrives on your shores. Don't try to dismiss it or deny it. Give it your undivided attention. Do not be ashamed of how or why or when you found it. Your journey here has been sacred. Greet salvation as an old, welcomed guest. Meet it not with fanfare or pomp. Instead, put the kettle on to boil. Pull up a chair and let it speak life to you. Find the tender parts of your body and soul that are warmed by its words. Don't argue with salvation when it arrives at your door. Bid it wide welcome. Don't be ashamed of where the path has led. Do not be embarrassed from all of the detours or missed plans. Don't be shy about what it is that feeds you, that nourishes and refreshes your soul. Don't be ashamed with how it greets you instead, welcoming you in warm embrace. How could it be anything different? Don't argue with salvation when it stirs in your heart, when it brings you to act for others, when it calls you to street corners and picket lines. Don't question it too harshly, to the point of missing it as it passes through. Relish it with every glimpse. Savor it with every taste of hope and good news. Don't be afraid to bring that blessed good news to others, to let your beautiful body carry its light through heavy burden. Don't be afraid when its saving power destroys just as much as it rebuilds, uplifts, and renews. Don't argue with salvation when it finds you when you least expect it, in an empty parking lot, on the kitchen floor, in the eyes and arms of a beloved. Don't try too hard to count its failed to grasp it with loose fingers. Excuse me, let me go back one word. Don't try too hard to count its many ways. They're immeasurable. Don't exhaust yourself with naming it in words that fail to grasp it with loose fingers. Surrender in those moments when you find yourself in His presence. Yield to it with an open clay heart ready for molding. Don't try to shut it out too soon or run too far from it. It won't make you stay. Indeed, it can't. But it sure wishes to welcome you home. Don't argue with salvation when it saves your life, when it harbors your soul from great pain and harm, when it stays with you in the middle of the storm. Don't give up on it too soon if it arrives a bit later than expected. I promise it's working on it. Don't be too angry with it if it doesn't look like you expect. Love it as you love your best self. Love it as you love your worst self. We could all use more grace. Serve it with all of your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Don't worry about its fragility. If it truly can take or bear the trials ahead of you and already in your midst, it's so much stronger than you think. Just let that out. Today, for our practices, we share a blessing for losers, risk takers, and all failures far and wide. Written by Robert Tanner. Blessed are they who fall in the mud, who jump with gusto and rip the pants, who skin the elbows and bruise the ego, for they shall know the sweetness of risk. Blessed are they who make giant mistakes, whose intentions are good, but impact has injured, who know the hot sense of regret and ask for mercy, for their hearts will know the gift of forgiveness. Blessed are they who have seen a D or an F or C or any letter less than perfect, who are painfully familiar with the red pen and the labels less than, for they know the wisdom in the imperfect. Blessed are they who try again, who dust off, who wash up, who extend the wish for peace, who return to the sites of failure, who are dogged in their pursuit, for they will discover the secret to dreams. Blessed are they who refuse to listen to the naysayers, for their hearts will be houses for hope. Blessed are they who see beyond the surface of another, for they will be able to delight in the gift of compassion. Blessed are they who stop running the race to help a fellow traveler, who pick up the fallen, who stop for injured life, for they shall know the kindness of strangers. Blessed are they who wildly, boldly abandon winning, for they shall know the path of justice. Let us sit together for silence in a time.
Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. Sigamos adelante. Siempre adelante, siempre adelante, sin volver atrás, sin volver atrás. Gonna keep on loving boldly, keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly, never turning back, never turning back. Amaremos con pasión, siempre con pasión, siempre con pasión, sin volver atrás. Sin volver atrás. Gonna reach across our borders. Reach across our borders. Reach across our borders. Never turning back. Never turning back. Vivamos sin fronteras. Siempre sin fronteras, siempre sin fronteras, sin volver atrás, sin volver atrás. Gonna reunite the families, all of them. Reunite the families, reunite the families, never turning back, never turning back. Familias reunidas, siempre reunidas, siempre reunidas, sin volver atrás, sin volver atrás. Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. 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 Never turning back.
Last week in his reflections, Reverend Kelly spoke of the promise to be found when we are willing to risk making a deep connection with another and all that it requires. In that reflection, Kelly said, "These then are the necessary conditions for building a bridge from one heart to another. The deep humility that we do not yet fully understand the other person and yet wish to. The work of better understanding ourselves so that we can share more authentically and fully. The willingness to be changed by this connection." As I listened to those reflections last week and pondered them in the days after, I couldn't help but think about all the kinds of connections we have throughout our days that have the potential to change us, to perhaps help us leave behind our worst selves for our better ones. The late UU minister Jacob Trapp, in a reading called The Simplest of Sacraments, wrote, "Simply to be, and to let things be as they speak wordlessly from the mystery of what they are. Simply to say a silent yes to the hillside flowers, to the trees we walk under. To pass from one person to another a morsel of bread and answering yes. This is the simplest, the quietest of sacraments." His words telling us that communion can be the simplest of sacraments, a moment with a tree or a time looking at another with possibility, made me wonder about other moments. Moments like brief encounters we may have with a complete stranger. Our world is full of many more strangers than friends. Our lives intersect with more strangers than with people who are known to us. There may have been times when you have felt it easier to talk with someone you just met, and maybe they say just the thing you needed to hear to lift your spirits. In this quick exchange, you share a moment of connection with no judgment, no history, just an experience of being here and human together. Hopefully an experience filled with kindness. You may never see that person again, yet in that spontaneous moment, you felt seen, you felt joy, you remembered that here, in that moment, you belonged. A few weeks ago, a friend and I were walking on Monroe Street early on a Sunday morning. We were passing by one of our local bookstores when I noticed a poster in the window for the upcoming release of the newest book by my favorite author. We stopped and I started to explain to her about this series. The world the author creates, the depth of characters, how you feel as if you know them. And that even though every book of hers that I have ever read has broken my heart, that by the time you close the book at the end, you have found redemption and hope and so much light. I didn't realize that as I was going on and on, lost in my own evangelical outpouring of love for these fictional folks, that the owner of the store was coming toward us and had overheard my excitement about the upcoming novel. "Wait right here for a minute," she said, and she headed back into the store. My friend and I looked at each other with puzzled eyes, and then my eyes widened in astonishment as she emerged from the store with the advanced reader's copy. "Here," she said, "enjoy. Come back and tell me what you think." I was speechless and tears welled in my eyes. "Really?" I managed to stammer. "Of course," she said. "It's really fun to bring joy to someone's day for no reason other than a shared love of fictional characters." And there it was, a moment of spontaneous connection with a stranger that changed my entire day and the days and the weeks following as I lost myself once again in a fictional town I love, remembering with deep gratitude the lesson of spreading joy to another, whether you know them or not, an encounter which was the very simplest of sacraments. A recent article in The Atlantic shared the surprising benefits of talking to strangers. In that article, they begin with the very real premise that many, if not most of us, have been raised to see strangers as dangerous and scary. We, for very good reason, teach our children about stranger danger, and many of us learn to walk through crowds or down a busy street without ever making eye contact with another soul. The past 18 months have made us even warier of interactions with those unknown to us, as the pandemic has limited our social interactions so severely. The article centered around a woman named Nick, who has coined a term for these kinds of brief interactions we have with a stranger. She calls them greyhound therapy. As she uses it, the term literally refers to talking with your seatmate on a long-haul bus, but can apply to talking with strangers anywhere. This form of connection has changed her life. When times were hard, she says, she turned to strangers to ward off loneliness. It works, she says, because she would go home with amazing stories, and even if there was no one else to share those stories with, she still held them closely and cherished the knowledge that another person would share a piece of their life with her. In psychology, the sorts of exchanges Nick is talking about are known as minimal social interactions. The psychologist Gillian Sandstrom had a similar epiphany about them a little over a decade ago. Now, Sandstrom was raised in Canada by extroverts who loved talking with strangers. And one day, Sandstrom, who'd always considered herself an introvert, realized that she always looked down when she walked down the street. She says, "I thought, well, this is ridiculous." So she started holding eye contact with people and actually found that it felt pretty good. Before long, she was talking with strangers too. She was surprised at how easy and fun it was. Once on the subway, she saw a woman holding a box of elaborately decorated cupcakes and asked about them. "I don't know how the conversation got there," she says, "but she taught me that humans can ride ostriches. I was sold. It was delightful, and I wanted to do it again." Later, during a stressful period, she took solace in an even smaller routine interaction, waving and smiling at a woman running a hot dog cart, someone she passed by every day. She said, "I realized that when I saw her and when she acknowledged me, it made me feel good. I felt like, yeah, I belong here." We know that a strong predictor of well-being is the quality of our relationships. Most of that information comes from looking at relationships with friends, family, coworkers. But over the past few years, more research has been done looking at our interactions with strangers, not as a replacement, but as a complement to those closer, long-haul relationships. All of the studies show that connecting, however briefly, through talking with a stranger can make us happier, more connected in our communities, less lonely, more trustful, and optimistic. As Nick shared, never underestimate the power of even the most minute positive connection. Now, early in July, I was a camp parent for a one-week summer camp that both of my kids attend. Sam is a counselor now, and Owen is a camper. All week, it was my job to arrive early to help caregivers drop off their kids, help kids find their group, and then help reconnect those adults and kids at the end of the day. On the very first day, it became obvious that it was difficult for younger campers to see where their group was outside on the playground. So we decided to give the group leaders a big, bright balloon in their color so that they could hold it up high every morning. I was quickly dispatched to the dollar store to find all the balloons we needed. As I was looking at the sign and trying to figure out if the bright yellow smiley face balloon could work for the yellow group, one of the employees came up to me and said, "Is that a Camp Invention t-shirt you're wearing? Did I see you at drop-off this morning?" I chuckled and said, "Yep, that would be me," and explained our playground balloon predicament. Her grandson was in the camp for the very first time, and he was so excited to be there. We talked about the camp, the fact that my kids have been going there for years, how wonderful it was, and just what a relief it was that they could be at a camp in person. Then she started talking about her 3-year-old grandson, wondering if I would help her fake a birth certificate for him so that he could go too. "I just have to find something for that baby to do," she said, "or neither one of us is going to make it through summer." We laughed and commiserated about young children in a pandemic and what a year it has been for all of us. As I was leaving the store, still laughing and now wrestling with a dozen brightly colored balloons, she yelled out, "Thank you, darling. I needed that laugh today. You keep on spreading the love. Lord knows we all need it." I thanked her for her kindness and laughter and told her I would do my best and I'd keep an eye out for her at camp the next morning. Laughter, author Anne Lamott says, is carbonated holiness. Those shared moments of laughter and spontaneous connection with someone I had never met. The knowing looks of those who live with small children in a pandemic. The moments of shared human experience in a dangerous, frightening, and ruptured world are not just beautiful, they are holy. Her words still ring in my head. Keep on spreading that love. It is the love to which St. Teresa of Avila alluded when she said, "Accustom yourself to make many acts of love, for they enkindle and melt the soul." As Kelly alluded to last week, there are times when it is not easy to love those whom we know well. Never mind those whom we imagine to be very different from us or are just an unknown quantity. It is hard to love angry, frightened, dangerous people, or even people whom seem careless, uninterested in our concerns. And yet it is the highest calling. It is what human beings are made for. We are made to be connected to one another, to offer and receive a love that includes those nearest and dearest, but also transcends into a greater love for all. That's the spiritual journey, to include and transcend. So what does the kindness of strangers have to do with anything. So much, really. To act in a kind way towards strangers is to follow St. Teresa's advice and accustom yourself to many acts of love. To be the recipient of an act of kindness can change your day or your life. Or you can be the one to reach out and offer that kindness that may make another person feel a little less alone in this world. And Lord knows, we all need it. The author Peggy Tabor Millen remembered, I was on a train on a rainy day. For some reason, I became intent on watching 2 raindrops on the window. 2 separate drops, pushed by the wind, merged into one for just a moment, and then divided again, each carrying with it a part of the other. Simply by that momentary touching, neither was what it had been before. And as each one went on to touch other raindrops, it shared not only itself, but what it had gleaned from the other. I realized in that moment that we never touch people so lightly that we do not leave a trace. Our state of being matters to those around us. We need to become conscious of what we unintentionally share so we can learn to share with intention. We know we all depend on the kindness of strangers, sometimes in ways we rarely consider. We rely on the faithfulness of people who grow and prepare our food, on the goodwill of those who teach our children, on the integrity of those who care for us when we are injured or ill. A religious community is itself a community of strangers trying to be kind and to love one another into relationship. It is a great spiritual practice to be kind to a stranger, to be a kind stranger, and to offer trust in a world that focuses most of all on the reasons not to trust. And as human beings, we have to choose. Will we focus on fear, hate, pain, anger at people who see the world differently? Or will we choose again and again to be kind, to be courageous, to love, to stand beside those with the least power, and be willing to do what it takes to create a more just world? What kind of people do we want to be? These are not simple or uncomplicated questions. In just a few weeks, we hope we will be welcoming you here into this beloved space, perhaps for the first time, or maybe the 1000th time. Whether this will be a new space for you, or whether it will be a returning home, we hope that you find here in this community of strangers an interaction that makes each one of you say, I belong here. That every single one of you that comes through our doors feels deeply in their bones, welcome home. The poet Naomi Shihab Nye wrote, before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. You must wake up with sorrow. You must speak to it till your voice catches the thread of all sorrows and you see the size of the cloth. Then it is only kindness that makes sense anymore. Only kindness that ties your shoes and sends you out into the day to mail letters and purchase bread. Only kindness that raises its head from the crowd of the world to say, it is I you have been looking for, and then goes with you everywhere, like a shadow or a friend. My friends, we know the sorrow of these days. We know the sorrow that surrounds this world of ours. Know the fear, the heartbreak, the pain is deep. We know the immense size of this cloth. How do we remember that it is only kindness that makes sense anymore? That this simplest of sacraments, this communion with a stranger, is our belief in the inherent worth and dignity of every person brought to life. For in this simple act is a recognition that we are all here, human, together, aware of how much our lives depend on kindness from those we know and those unknown to us. So may you be the kind stranger someone needs today. May you allow life and love to move through you. And may you let the transforming power of love travel with you throughout all your days.
May the thoughts that Reverend Crocker's message give you moments of pause and wonder throughout the week before us. May they also trickle down, to paraphrase the Bible, written, and I quote, "Render unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's," unquote. As we pause for the morning offering, those who wish are invited to bring your gifts to the table. You may also give by tapping the Donate tab on the church app. We leave you today with these words from John O'Donohue. With respect and reverence, that the unknown between us might flower into discovery and lead us beyond the familiar field, blind with the weed of weariness and the old walls of habit. Blessed be, and go in peace. Please stand, if you wish, as together we extinguish the challenge. The words are in the morning program. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you.